welcome to Playing to Win, a podcast about improving your day-to-day quality of life inside of the gaming world and outside of the gaming world. I'm your host, Travis Paler, and I'd like to extend a nice warm welcome to our viewers and listeners to our first podcast, Friends List. A little background about who I am. My name's Travis. I'm a gaming enthusiast under NIWAT, but more importantly, I'm a multimedia savant who's been in the industry for over 10 years, and I've covered things from the 2018 Pyeongchang Olympics to NASA rocket launches in Cape Canaveral. I got my start in esports under Straight Rippin' as a content manager, and through that I realized that there's topics and conversations that I'd like to cover and set out and cover these topics that I think are important. Joining me also today, we have Zane Hearon, also known as Penguin, who's a professional Halo player under Cloud9. Zane got his professional start in 2016, where he placed top 3 in the 2016 Halo World Championships, and then on has been placing top 4 in the brackets. Hey Zane, welcome, and thank you for joining us in this podcast.
Hey Travis, thanks for the introduction, man.
Yeah, of course. Just for our viewers' sake and our listeners' sake, can you just give us a little background about what got you started in video gaming? Maybe what's a little story or what was that moment?
Yeah, sure. I think for me, and maybe a lot of people would relate to this, I think my dad was kind of a gamer. Like, he grew up in like the 70s, 80s, and they had arcades, so he'd be just at the arcade all the time. My mom would have to like be there with him, just like waiting for him to finish. A great story about him is he was known throughout so many of the machines, like his initials SMH, like kids started to know who he was at his local
That's cool.
arcades, which is pretty cool. So I think growing up, he wanted to get us into that too. So he would just like buy us every console that he could, like everything that he could. Like, we didn't have the most money, but he bought everything at pawn shops, and like I think we had all the systems to current day. So that's like super cool, and that's what got me into it. And then eventually got an original Xbox and started playing Halo, and that's just what I fell in love with, and the whole MLG and like competitive scene, like just thought was super cool. So like that's what got me into it.
Awesome. And you find yourself in Halo now. What's kind of what got you in Halo as a professional Halo player?
Like I said, MLG and stuff, like when that was like a big thing, like in Halo 2 and Halo 3, just like seeing that online and seeing people like play video games for like money and like for like what is it, for I guess recognition, like you get to be the best at something. I just think that's super cool. I'm a competitive guy, and like, that's kind of what got me into it. So.
Getting your initials on that
on that leaderboard.
On that leaderboard, yeah. Well, cool. Well, just to go over our episode today called Friends List, we're going to kind of go through a couple talking points, starting with how to build your friends list in the gaming world, getting started in the competitive scene, the things we miss and love about tournaments. Obviously, that we have COVID that's kind of caused us to...
I think all of us miss tournaments that are in the scene. I think that's like what we're looking forward to, hopefully in 2021.
Yeah, so I think that's a great talking point. Also, we have dealing with toxic behaviors in the community, trolls and whatnot. How to negotiate that.
That's a big one too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a good talking point. There's the friends list, and then there's maybe the
opposite of it, the trolls. People get to know trolls even, man. You got to figure out how to deal with them. That's a good one to talk about.
Yeah. And then we'll just talk about like the roles of a player and a coach, as well as I think it's the obvious question to ask, but I think it's a topic that we should talk about is becoming a professional gamer using and utilizing your friends list. Also joining us in this topic of conversation, we have Emanuel Lovejoy, also known as Hoaxer, who's the professional Halo coach under Cloud9. Hoaxer got his professional esports career started in 2011, where he was a free-for-all professional Halo player, and in 2016 stepped up into a leadership role as a professional Halo coach. From then after, he's been coaching household names such as Straight Rippin', Ninja's professional Halo team Luminosity Gaming, Renegades, and Team Envy. Hey, Hoaxer, welcome, and thanks for joining us on this podcast journey.
Thanks for having me, Travis. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think so. You and Zane are kind of you're on the same team, if I'm not mistaken, right now for Cloud9, right?
Most definitely, we're on the same team for sure.
Thankfully, we're on the same team.
Yeah.
And what's that like? I mean, how did that come to be?
Oh man, well, I had the pleasure of coaching him on Renegades back in 2018. And so, we've been able to build a lot of chemistry since then. And, when, before this roster was, conceived, Eco, who's, the team captain, he pretty much put the team together, and, and then obviously, he wanted Penguin on board as well. So it was pretty awesome. That I already knew that was going to be a thing, and I already know what kind of person Zane is and what kind of player he is. So I was super excited. Uh,
Awesome.
since the beginning.
Yeah, and Zane, what about you, man? It sounds like you guys have a rapport. I mean, how long have you known Emanuel, and what do you gotta say
Uh,
about that?
I've known Emmanuel for like maybe 4 or 5 years now, like towards the end of H2A, early Halo 5. Uh, I had him as my coach on Renegades. I think he's my favorite coach of all time. So like getting to work with him again, like super, super pumped. Because I think like what he brings to the table is not just like, times and timing power weapons and power ups and whatever. He actually understands the game. He plays it more than all the players combined, maybe. And so I think he brings a lot to the table. I think he has a lot of game knowledge, and I just love working with him, man. He's got high energy, which I don't, so he can make up for a little bit of that for me. So I love it, and I love the composition of the team we have right now.
Awesome. Awesome. So today
Yeah.
on this episode, Playing to Win, we're talking about friends list and just how to build up a friends list. So why don't we just start with how do you get started in the comp scene, and where does that friends list kind of start to play a little bit of an intricate role?
For me, like earlier in Halo 4, we've never been like a massive community since Halo 3. So like, the
True.
people that play all the time, like you start to recognize them just in matchmaking and stuff.
Right.
And for me, I would just keep track of, who am I playing? Like, how do they perform against everyone else? How do they perform against me? How do I perform against them? And something to take note of is people that typically like outperform you just a little bit, like maybe trying to reach out to them if you think you're competitive with them a little bit, and trying to play with them all the time on Xbox Live. I know for me, I would just move on from player to player, kind of like I had a core people I'd play with for fun, and then I had people that I would kind of jump around with and try to get better with people online.
Kind of just getting your name out, people seeing you, kind of picking you up, or whatnot. I mean, Emmanuel, as a coach now, I mean, how does that kind of transpire into the friends list and seeing people online or seeing people at LANs? What does that mean to you?
Yeah. Well, I guess to help tie in like the correlation between player and coach, like from where I am, I my niche was kind of started in free for all for me, because that's the quickest way I saw that I could just get in the mix and get the exposure and exude the talents that I had, because back then free for all was a pretty integral part of competitive Halo. You had your team-based Halo tournaments, but you also had a healthy, I guess, community of FFA players.
Lone wolves.
Yeah, lone wolves. Yeah, for sure. And so, I kind of see myself as like a lone wolf at at heart. And essentially, I liked the pressure of everything just being on me. Like, you're not responsible for anybody else but yourself and free for all. And so, I love that kind of pressure. It's a little bit unique, as opposed to the pressure of 4v4, team based competitive Halo. So, I use that as like a segue into me just getting that exposure and notoriety, and because I was pretty consistent with placing top placings in free for all, and so that built up my my notoriety. Most people are like, oh, that's the FFA guy, or it's like it's
Yeah,
oh, hoaxer,
yeah.
and so and then I had a it's like a bounty on your head after a certain point when you start placing high. Like,
Everybody wants
gunning.
to like get that notification or like that cloud, I guess, of like bringing down the top dog.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, they want that opportunity to take them down, because obviously that's going to help them in their their path to wherever they want to go, path to pro or what have you. But to kind of tie that in is, eventually that gave me opportunities to team with top players, and and team, and the team aspect of competitive Halo. And eventually, I competed over a certain amount of years, and then I felt like I think it was time to start moving into like the coaching, because I had all that that player experience and that resume, and I could relate a lot better to players that I would hypothetically be coaching, better than say someone who just off the rip decided, okay, I'm just going to start coaching. Which there are coaches like that, but I felt like I have I have an edge there. So that's kind of like where the whole coaching came from, and to kind of like tie it into like the whole friends list thing. I mean, it's like at that point, I've been in the game for so long. I have all of these people who who worked with me, who played alongside me, and friends along the way that I've made, relationships, and it all ties into how well I can be received in terms of coaching players and anybody. So
So for free for all in particular, would you say that it's kind of like it segues into rivalries, and then you make friendships through that? Like you get to like know who your competition is, and then you start talking to them that way.
yeah, I mean it's but not limited to. I mean that's one of the many dynamics that you have with people that you have on your friends list and whatnot. I mean, for example, one of the more popular, excuse me, players that had ever got involved with competitive Halo or just Halo in general was one of my good friends, Campy. He's no longer in the scene.
Phase
Um,
Campy.
yeah, FaZe Campy, and man, Tony, that's one of my favorite teammates of all time. But my gosh, man, we had some crazy rivalries in FFA because I mean, he's one of the best free for all players I've ever played against. And so if I'm placing top placings in FFA, naturally there are some people who are going to be just as consistent, if not more. And Campy was one of those guys, and I'm just like, damn, dude, like, give me a break, man, like, cause he's so
That
good.
Halo Reach FFA is legendary, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we've had some intense battles, and you have those kind of rivalries, and it's rivalry doesn't necessarily mean it's bad blood. Um, I have all kinds of love for Tony, and so we ended up teaming eventually, and that was we had one of the most like powerful teams that I've ever been a part of. So, and then, it transcends Halo at that point because, if he ever called me one day out the blue, I would pick up immediately. And because all I want is the best for the guy, and he's out there somewhere being the best at something. So, it's stuff like that really means a lot when when you talk about building a friends list, because you never know where it could go.
Well, so how important is like social media to like building a? I mean, there's the in-game obvious, like on like Xbox, you've got like the obvious friends list, right? Like boom,
Right.
I'm gonna send a little friend request. You did good in the game. Maybe you'll reciprocate. Now it's a following base. I think back in the day, it used to be like I send you a friend request and you accept it or you don't, right?
Right.
Now it's like
You
I'm
just
gonna
leave it there.
yeah, yeah, exactly, right. But
Yep.
there's also social media, right? I mean, there's
Right.
multiple ways to find people in this community. I mean, Zane, maybe talk
Yep.
about. I know that like maybe getting started in this world, you went for twos, but like, how do you even get that started in twos? And from there, like once you started getting noticed, like how
Um,
did you get on a team? How did you get to Cloud9, man?
so for me, it wasn't social media; it was actually locals. Like not
Oh,
necessarily LAN tournaments, but like we had a LAN center, and I would go every single week when I was like 16, 17, and I'd be like one of like three guys there or whatever. But eventually, like people start to show up. So for me, I would go to this all the time, and then a new game was coming out, so people kind of got back into Halo again, like a little bit. And
right.
Wolfmane, one of my locals, some people might know Wolfmane, like he invited Rain, and I talked about Rain in the 2v2s, and like we just started playing matchmaking at a LAN. I think there was only like three people there, so it was just like me, Rain, and Wolfmane playing matchmaking. And Tim was like, this kid probably sucks. He looks at some goofy, like chubby, like little 17-year-old, whatever. He's like, this kid probably sucks. But then you play with people, and then they see how good
Right.
you are, and then you kind of build that camaraderie, especially in person. Like it's a lot easier to do. Like maybe social media is harder, but for me it was in person. So we just
Hmm.
kept playing and playing and playing, and eventually Halo 5 came out, and Rain knew the better players because he was one himself. So he starts playing with the better players when that game drops, and then eventually they start to play with me a little bit, and they see, man, this kid's actually really good at Halo 5. Like maybe we should play with him for a while. And you just gotta try your best and impress. And that's
Yeah.
what I did. And eventually got on team with Rain. And then he was team with Contra, and Contra saw how good I was. And that's a player people will know. And
Hmm.
I just got on that team, and man, like it just took off from there. Yeah.
So this was all in-person gaming, right? Not really an online presence, but more going
so for
to.
me, it was I met one person in person, and that like he came to a land. I met him,
Right.
and then he knew people. So
Right.
sometimes it's about making a connection with just that one individual that knows other people, and then you
Cool.
just like have this in. So that's what I got.
Yeah, I mean, Emmanuel, what do you think about? I mean, the question was social media. Is there
Right.
other ways? I mean, it doesn't have to be social media specifically, but is there any other way to kind of meet someone or get on the radar that's not, just turning on the game and grinding online?
Yeah. Well, I mean, back in my day, I've been I've been around for so long that MySpace was the thing for like
What was your
Twitter.
song on your
networking.
MySpace page?
Oh, what was that? What'd you say?
You could have like a custom song on your MySpace page. Remember that? What was your song?
I love that. I love that.
What are you guys talking about?
Yeah, see it? Oh gosh.
No, man, that's a big thing.
Showing our age.
Having my own music on my own page, that kind of stuff, like
Right.
DMCA, whatever. But yeah, that was our networking
Right.
ability there. But nowadays, Twitter and uh streaming platforms like Twitch, like
Yeah,
those
Twitch,
those
definitely.
are
Okay.
those are huge
Cool.
these days that we didn't have back then. And that makes things so much more accessible for people that are wanting to make new connections and friends essentially within the community.
Totally. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you're able to just invest time into watching people's streams, and then if you're depending on what you want, you're trying to be a competitive player in the scene, you reach out to those people,
Right.
and you just keep doing it over and over
Just
again.
a whole digital network,
Twitch is a big one, man. I
Really?
know for me on Twitch, like, the better players will stream and you get to watch them, and like, you
Right.
should take that as like a learning experience and like something that you should really pursue. And
Mm.
like the better players are also watching because they want to get better too. So like if
100%.
you're in the chat and you're getting your name out there and you're always like talking, like people will like play with you. Like you can ask people to play with you because they know who you are. They know you're not just
That's
this
cool.
weirdo playing matchmaking.
Yeah, you've got like
And I know-
name recognition, right?
Yeah, you get name recognition. I know for me, like one thing I did was, but before I even had met Rain, like to try to get my name out there a little bit, I subscribed to Emmanuel's brother, Alumni, on Twitch.
Oh, dang.
He wasn't necessarily a pro at the time, but he was really good. And, he'd average like 30, 40 viewers. So like he was down to play with people because he didn't have like hundreds of viewers all asking him. He'd have like 40 viewers with like maybe like 2 people asking to play. And that's something that I did. Like I saw him, like he knows people, like he's really good. So like I'll try to go that route. And then that kind of got my name out there a little bit too. So Twitch chat, definitely. My first tournament, actually, I was in Sudeth 2's chat. I don't know if y'all know Sudeth 2. He has some legendary videos on YouTube of Ninja 1v1ing him, owning him.
Dang.
But I was in his chat, and like someone was talking about going to an H2A event, and I was like, team with me. And I said Kappa. And then like somehow that became serious. And I found teammates, Floppy and Dodge Bullets and Covent. Like shout out to you guys. But I found teammates that way. And then I went to an event and got like top 20 maybe. There was only 32 teams, but it was just like another way to meet people. Twitch chat I think is a big one. Twitter, I don't know as much about, but you can definitely follow people and connect on Twitter. But I think because you're trying to pursue the competitive side of it, having something to watch and chatting about it at the same time is probably the best way to do that. And I think Twitch is a big tool for that.
Huh.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess the big one, or another big one that like we didn't have until a few years ago was Discord.
Right. That's a huge platform, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're going through COVID, and I feel like Discord is like the MVP
it's a
in
hangout
the gaming
spot,
world.
dude.
Right.
Yeah. So you also have that where you're just able to seamlessly, jump from server to server of whoever's community. I mean, people have their own gaming communities within their own
own server, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. People join mine all the time. I see random people and they're just talking, and I'm like, wait, people are in my Discord chatting?
Yeah,
that's
people
cool.
Are asking each other to play, and I'm like, dude, this is so cool.
Yeah. So you kind of like create your own little worlds, right?
Exactly. And I mean, that's all I guess a sub group within Halo, but not limited to. It just evolves into something else. It evolves. I mean, it's your community essentially.
Right.
Depending on how you treat it. but essentially, if you're a player or someone who's wanting to build a friends list, that's a huge way. Like you combine
Mm.
Twitch and Discord, and it's just that's how you do it. I mean, at least today.
Right. I think maybe from that we can segue into thinking about things that we miss or things, we are in fact in kind of an isolated moment due to COVID. And so we
Right.
haven't had a lot of live tournaments. So what are the things that we're missing about live tournaments and the opportunities that tournaments provide to the players, coaches, orgs, whatever, to build that relationship with or friends lists, right?
I think for me, it's the whole atmosphere of it, the sense of community. Like you're all there at the LAN because you love to do the thing everybody else is there to do, and you have this common interest, and like it makes it easier to like get to know people, make connections, talk to people. Like you can't go to a tournament and not have something to talk about because you're there to do the same thing. Like it makes it so easy to like get to know people and meet people in that way because you always have a topic of conversation, and that obviously leads to maybe getting to know them on a more personal level. So
Right.
for me, it's definitely the people, the atmosphere, like the community. Like it's just the coolest thing ever, man.
Yeah, and not to mention, you're a pro, you're one of the best, pro players in the game, so it creates a whole new layer of
Oh, stop it.
you
No,
know,
imagine.
purpose and just, it's just a different feel, you know. Um, I for me it's that dynamic that starts before even stepping in to the tournament. It's all the things that lead up to that point. Um, you know, uh, it was like maybe a month ago or so. I saw somebody in the community, the esports community, tweet about how they missed that Uber ride. It was like 6 in the morning on the way to the airport. From the airport to the event, but on that Uber ride, it's that inevitable talk, that exchange, between you and the Uber driver, because Uber drivers are just like they're
It's the esports talk.
yeah, it's the
Yeah.
esports
They're
talk.
personable, man. They're personable.
They're
Yeah.
always engaging. They're always going to ask you questions. It's never that silent drive.
Where are you going? What are you
know,
doing?
Yeah, so it's like the usual FAQ of, an Uber ride, and they're asking, because obviously they know you're going to the airport.
Right.
That's, they're taking you there. It's just like, where are you going? What do you do? Or what are you going to be doing? And so it's that, oh, here we go. There's that, we're, that esports pitch, spiel, or, whatever you want to call it. And so that's where it starts for me, because it's, I love talking about it. And most people, it's esports isn't quite mainstream yet. I guess
It's getting there.
it's getting there,
Kinda.
right? It's getting there, but most people, they're like, they've never heard of it, but they're into gaming perhaps, or they have kids that are into gaming, so it's relatable, or there's some sort of enthusiasm there, and then you just blow their minds about just competitive Halo or just esports in general, and obviously it's our passion. We're there, and to add professional coach, professional player to the mix, it's just like, whoa, like you're for real. You're
Yeah,
you're
so
serious
really
about.
good. You're making like a living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's no
so,
longer just a hobby, right?
right, and that adds to the anticipation of live events, like getting there, and then you get off your plane and you're on your way to the hotel, and you're getting settled in, and then eventually you're meeting up with your teammates if you didn't already at the airport, because a lot of times you're meeting up with them there, or you're meeting, or you've got the same flight with other players. Maybe they're you're going to be competing with against them, or it's like friends in the gaming community are on your flight. A lot of times that happens, and that's really dope,
Yeah.
and so
It kind of
all
becomes
that
real,
stuff.
right? It gets out of that
Exactly.
online feel, and all of a sudden you're like,
Mhm.
oh, like it's starting to get real life here.
Yeah, so I miss that so much, man.
Right.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait for that. And yeah, and then you finally step into the venue and you're just like, let's go. Like we're here. Woo! That
Yeah.
kind of feel. So
And the energy, like Zane said, I mean,
yeah.
the energy is like you can't compare it to anything, you step into those
Yeah.
venues and you're like, oh, this is cool. Like, you got stages, you've got lights, you've got commentating, you've got broadcasts. You're like, oh, this is sweet. This is fun to be here.
I know one thing I also kind of miss is like seeing the up and comers, And for newer people that are actually trying to get into competition and meet these other people, like LAN is the absolute best way to do it. You know, if you're only playing online and you're only playing on online tournaments and you miss like, you know, 5 LANs and whatever, but you want to take it seriously, like you have to go to a LAN. If you go to a LAN, it gives people like the chance to put a face to a name. It's a great way to get yourself out there and like really show that you're a real person. Because maybe like there's some like higher ups, maybe like you're on the fringe of like semi-pro, pro, whatever you want to say, and they're kind of like wary of you. Like they don't know if they should like pick you up because they don't really know who you are or if you're going to be a reliable person. So if you become a reliable person and show that you're that, like you'll make a connection in that way and people will take notice of that.
Facts. Yeah, you never know. You never know where it can be. It's like half of it is just showing up.
Yeah. And as a coach, I mean, you're always kind of looking at who's who, right? At time, right? I mean,
yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Everyone's always looking at who's who, man.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah,
Why?
everyone is. I mean, for me, for coaching, I mean, it's to learn. It's to learn from them, or it's to look out for who I might be competing with, against with my team, and or it's to just to be aware of who's in the mix, who's up and coming. Those things are important. And it's one of those things where you just want to be in the know of everything. Like if you're at a certain level, in the community, you want to have a good idea of the participants in your community and see who's got the passion.
Yeah. Don't let that person get that sniper because they're gonna be really good
Sure.
with it.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Or whatever.
And then also, it's our community at the end of the day. It's like, you want to be aware of people who've got, good heads on their shoulders, or
Right.
maybe there's some people who need some guidance, or that are looking for guidance. And I wish like hell I had that, back in the day when I was first starting.
Right.
Because I was a little runt. I talk trash, all that stuff. I still talk that.
Dude.
But
Emanuel talks the most trash, man.
yeah,
I swear. Especially on side stage, like I've seen him scream at people.
Yeah, it's okay though. It's a competitive world, right? It's a sport.
Yeah,
it's
and they're
esports,
screaming.
right?
They're screaming first usually. So
yeah.
warranted.
I mean, it's not. I'm not coming off. I'm not coming off the cuff and out of pocket most of the times.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
Most of the times.
Yeah, but like back in the day, like I was a runt. I was talking trash to anybody. I'm outgunning somebody. It's just a single outgun. Whatever.
Right.
But it was hype for me. But it's just like if somebody, maybe somebody of higher stature came through, is like, just keep it chill, man. That's just one time. You gotta keep doing that.
Right.
And
Coach
that humbles
Hoaxer
you.
10 years ago kind of stepping in and going like, hey man, like or whatever, versus player Hoaxer, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a nice. I guess I can be a nice guy, but when it comes to like competitive, like I say things with my chest. And,
Totally. Yeah.
I say things with my gameplay. I'm the opposite.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Emanuel knows I'm the opposite.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's it's just cool because like playing being able to coach a guy like Zane, who's time and time made some like pretty awesome plays. I'm just so like blown away at like the level of like skill that
and
these
a young
guys
gun
have,
too,
man.
right? He came in at a young gun, right? So
yeah,
you have
I
those.
can't run off the bat.
Yeah, so you've got that mentor kind of coach role that you kind of have now stepped into for these players. And I just want to segue kind of back into being at a live tournament and kind of building those friends lists. And I think Zane, I think you were talking about just kind of the getting started in the competitive scene and like, you kind of mentioned getting your name out there, but like, what's one of the stories that you could kind of pull from about, being at a live event and like the actual benefits of like, how'd you get the Cloud9,
I know for me, it wasn't like a major tournament. Like even it's just like locals. Like I talked about locals. Like that's how I really met the teammate that stuck with me for like the beginning stages of like growing, which was Rain. So if you go to locals, like you're going to meet the better players because they're going to be the ones that are more into it. And so that's what I did all the time. Like I think I went to LAN after LAN after LAN and there was like no one there. But one day, like someone good will show up because like Halo's coming back, or like, the game's getting big again, and you can meet a good player that way. And we kind of held hands, I guess, for lack of a better term. And like the beginning stages, it was just like me and him, like playing 2v2s. 2v2s is a great way to get your name out there too, because it's not like you have to find 4 really solid players. So that's what we did. We played 2v2s, kind of got our name out there. We placed maybe top 3 in like 4 of them in a row in Halo 2 Anniversary, and people started taking notice of that. And then eventually at the beginning of Halo 5, we kind of started forming teams with the better players.
Awesome. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. I mean, so we've kind of talked about the positivity of a friends list. Let's take a step back and kind of talk about just how to deal with toxic behaviors in the community or outside of the community, kind of stepping in. We call them trolls at times, right? I mean, Emanuel, how do we deal with people that are just not being nice?
Yeah, trolls are they're kind of like an inevitable element to, any community or just anything in
on
life.
the internet.
Yeah, especially the internet for sure. For me it's all internal. And I don't know if this is a common thing. Like, I don't know. I don't know if it's something that, most people are kind of like go through a process of, but for me it's like I ultimately I feel like I'm untouchable when it comes to anyone trying to antagonize me on the internet. And the reason why I feel that is because I go through a certain process, like in myself, of like maybe there's a troll, if maybe I'm streaming or something, and a troll comes in the chat and just says something off the wall, like something stupid, like man, why are you goofy looking? Why is your nose so big? Some stupid stuff like that. And for me, it's like obviously they're trying to get a rise out of you, obviously. And for me, it's like it's all about knowing yourself. If you know what triggers you, or the emotions that you feel inside, then you already have the opportunity to channel that energy outwardly in a way that is deflecting, or there's so many ways that you can go and treat a situation like a troll, because at the end of the day you could just simply just remove them, if you wanted to. If you didn't have time for that person, for that troll, I mean, they're people, believe it or not, but uh, you can remove them. Or if they come into your chat, like for example me, I'll just personalize it, like I'm a professional coach in Halo and I'm streaming. There's not too many of those in the scene, so that's an opportunity for anybody to come in and see how I play the game, or see the kind of person that I am, and ask me things, engage me.
Rather than
that's your opportunity.
Yeah, it's a good time to kind of come in and be like, hey, like, why are you doing this, rather than like
exactly
say bad things or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, that's another way that you could treat a troll, is saying, hey, so and so Sniper X 24, I don't know, look at what I'm doing here. I'm playing the game that I love and that I do. I'm involved in professionally, and you're coming in here, coming at me like that, when you have an opportunity to ask me something constructive, or something that you're curious about within this game. I mean, you're a troll within Halo. We're not the biggest community, so it's like,
you can find out. I mean, eventually I think that the community is going to grow throughout 2021, 2022,
absolutely,
right? So
absolutely.
It's going to get saturated pretty quick, but to kind of have those tools, I mean, I guess what we're trying to say is maybe don't feed the trolls, or don't buy into what they're saying. It's maybe deflect,
it's important to understand that, like, the objective of a troll is to antagonize you and to get you riled up, and they're trying to get that bad side out of you. So the quicker you understand that, the better you are at treating the situation. And it all comes down to knowing yourself and understanding that trolls are just projecting on you.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
cool. That's
when you
deep,
keep
man.
that in mind, like you become untouchable, and that's something that you take out of the game. Because I mean, there's people that are going to come off the street, maybe one day and mouth off or, antagonize you in some way. Maybe they honk their horn at you at a stoplight, or something. And it's just like, we can't go anywhere. Why are
Right.
you honking your horn?
Yeah.
Like, but I don't have to engage that person behind me. Like, we just keep it moving.
Right. I
And
mean, there's trolls in real life at like a live event too, right? I
yeah,
mean, what do
yeah.
we
I
what do
mean,
we do then? Or
yeah, live trolls, they're a little bit less
Hmm.
in frequency, because trolls are a bit more passive. Obviously, they're online.
They get to
Um,
hide behind a screen online. They can't do it in
yeah,
person.
that's when they're at their
Right.
Yeah.
strongest.
Okay. So if,
But
if you're at a LAN, there's less of an opportunity, or it's not going to be as toxic at times, right? Or
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's all like, you know, rainbows and sunshine at events. Like, you'll have those people, um, and
but the
it's one of
community's
the
strong, right? I mean, it's a safe spot. I mean,
yeah,
maybe we kind of extend it to
sure.
our viewers and listeners. If they do show up to a LAN, like they're not alone. They can always kind of ask for help. There's always help available. And it's a pretty strong
Yeah,
community
I
when you're
mean
at a LAN,
that.
right?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, that ties into, the friends that you come to know on your way to going to events,
Mm.
that you want to meet. And I think it's important to roll with people at events, like, as much as you can. Because at the end of the day, you're at an event and it's uncharted territory for a lot of people. And even us, like, I mean, we're not going to be, walking around solo in, public. Because I mean, there's a lot of places that you have to go to in between a venue and your hotel, most likely, or,
Right.
you're on the street. You're not always at the event.
Buddy
So
system.
yeah, I
Safety
mean,
in
it's
numbers. Yeah, that's what I
yeah,
was
I mean,
thinking.
you got to make some
Yeah.
team pushes outside of the game too. Um, so, and I'll be honest, and it's not just guys in this community. It's girls and women in this community, and there's a lot of girls that play Halo 5, and they're in the Halo community.
Yeah.
So that means that they're gonna be at these events, and it's important to look out for, trolls that come to these events and are trying to antagonize these girls and whatnot. That's an element with anything in life.
Right.
Um, and so basically what I'm getting at is you might not be the receiver of like trolls and just bullies and shit like that. Sorry. But
It's
this is
okay.
just the
Stuff like that.
Yeah,
yeah,
but
stuff like
it's a
that.
heavy topic, I mean, it's
Yeah,
something that like you said, like you're kind of bringing your friends list that's digitally, and they kind of, they've got your back, I guess, when you kind of build that community, right?
yeah, and you want to have other people's back. Like,
Mm.
maybe you don't know them as well. Maybe they don't qualify to be on your friends list, perhaps, or your friend, but they're part of a community. They're part of your community, and we should be sticking up for for other people.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, I mean, that's kind of what it is, when it comes to trolls coming to these live events and uh, showing their asses, and
Yeah.
we just got to look out for each other and call people out and stick up for people. That's what it is.
Definitely. I think for me, as far as trolls go, there's kind of like levels, tiers to it. Because I think everyone is kind of a troll. Like, they'll make a joke or say something like, oh, you should hit that shot. Why didn't you get that overkill, Kappa? And that's like no big deal. So there's like levels. There's trolls that are actually just having fun, like kind of poking fun. There's trolls that are getting to a point where they're being rude and disrespectful. And then there's people who cross the line. So it's knowing those levels and like knowing yourself and being able to like overcome that. So as far as like disrespect and rude, those are the people that you could probably question and being like what's wrong with you? Like, why didn't you ask me something productive rather than calling me ugly or something? And then there's trolls poking fun, and you can have fun back with them. And then there's people who cross the line, and when you cross the line, that's when it's good to have those friends around, to have those people around that are looking out for you, and you looking out for them. Like once you cross the line, like you say something like really terrible about someone, or like you threaten them, or like you're just going way too far, cussing them out, or like even like racism. Like I'm sure you've dealt with that, Emmanuel. Like it gets to a point where you got to shut it down. Like
Yeah.
So that's what I think.
Zero tolerance for certain things.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. I mean, so we'll just live on this for a couple more seconds, and then I think we'll segue out into a little bit more uplifting topic. But how do you, I mean, you can advocate for yourself, Emmanuel, right? I mean, I think you remember, we were kind of discussing before the show, just about like, you have that ability to kind of shut things down preemptively, right?
Yeah. It's funny that you said that, because back when I got my partnership on Twitch, the first thing, like, because obviously I was going to start streaming, I was streaming way more.
Yeah.
And the first thing the first order of operation that I did was to ban the N-word in my chat, like, in all variations of it. And then I just took it from there. I took it from there and started banning just all the vulgar words that you could possibly think of. So I mean, that took like 30 minutes, but
Right.
literally the first thing, because I just didn't want it. I didn't want the possibility of that happening. And I mean, obviously, trolls, if they really want to do something, they will do it. Like, it's going to happen more than likely. But the point is you can take preemptive actions to I guess create a I don't know what you would call it, a habitat, your own habitat within the
Right.
community.
I mean, it's just like blocking,
healthy.
you meet someone bad online or whatever, and you can just block them.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah,
Right?
it's as simple as that. You don't even
Yeah.
have to. They don't even have to become aware that you saw what they said.
Right.
You literally, maybe you looked at your chat real quick. Boom.
Gone.
Banned.
Just
no warning.
no reaction, just banned.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
that's
I
it.
mean, like you said, they're
crossing the
looking
line.
for that. Yeah, they cross. Yeah, so there's the 3 tiers. The 3rd tier, they cross that line, and guess
Yep.
what? Like, don't feed the trolls later. I'm out.
100%.
Cool.
100%.
I
Don't
think
think twice about it.
Yeah, that's great advice. I mean, I think that, like you said, they're looking for that emotion. They're looking to invoke that kind of that reaction out of you. And I mean, if you just take that power away from them by not even giving them that power, you're kind of winning.
Oh yeah,
in that
absolutely.
regard. Yeah. So let's just
100%.
kind of segue out of this topic. I mean, it's a heavy one. I think it's something that we needed to talk about. It's the double-edged sword, right? We've got the friends list, we've got the non-friends list, we could say. And why don't we just talk about like the roles of a coach in esports and the role of a player in esports? Like, how do you get on something? I mean, for our viewers and listeners, I think they're all wondering, how do you get onto a team like Cloud9, or how do you kind of step into those roles and kind of build it from there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, since you don't really have a coach until you have a player, I feel like. So, man, I'll let you go first, Zane. Talk about that.
So I guess a role of a player is to be a student of the game, I guess you could say. Like, if you really want to succeed and excel at something, like, you have to learn it, and you have to be passionate about it, and you have to put in the hard work. So for being a player, it's about like not only improving your own individual skill and like learning on your own, it's about learning from others too. It's about taking criticism in a positive way. Like, I used to have a teammate that I became friends with in Halo 4 that would scream at us, and like, maybe that's not the best way to go about it, but what he was saying, because like I knew he was better as a teammate than I was, I took it to heart. Like, it was actually good stuff, and I saw myself improve as a player. So I think it really just takes that level of dedication and like not taking things the wrong way, and just really like, watching other people's gameplay and like learning from everything that you possibly can.
Yeah. I mean, that's it's funny you said, because a lot of those things are what takes being a coach as well. I think I guess what the role of a coach, I guess, is well, it's not even, I guess, it is it's obviously playing. You've got to play the game. You've got to put the time in. that's the edge that I believe. It's like not just being a coach, but being a great coach is you putting the time in. And
Well, yeah, it's definitely part of the reason why I think you're such a good coach. You actually understand the game itself. You're not just like a timer. But I guess I would ask you, what do you think like the main differences between a player and a coach is? Because like obviously those two are similar.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like the responsibility of the coach is to fill in the gaps and make it as easy on the players as you possibly can in terms of relaying information in the game. I mean, there's roles of a coach obviously that transcend in game, but when you talk about being in the game, you do have to keep track of time and power weapons, power ups, because nowadays, like for example, a game like Halo 5, it's such a intense game. There's so much going on. All the from the mechanics of you articulating your Spartan in game, all the way to making sure you're in the right place at the right time in the game, and you forget certain things like when the next power up comes up, or prepping yourself for the next set of power weapons that are coming up, and bar none in game, that is the role of a coach, at least in Halo. I mean, obviously the role of a coach in other esports or in other games, it varies. But we have a unique dynamic within this game that we are actively involved in the game.
Right.
So would you say it's kind of keeping track of the bigger picture then, like the power ups, the positioning?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but not limited to. I mean, yeah, that's definitely one of the main roles of the coach is, it's just like keeping it simple and keeping that bigger picture in mind. It's power weapon times, power up times.
The actual in-game knowledge, though, too. I mean, Zane, what's it like to have a coach? I mean, you've had a couple coaches. You've had Hoaxer as a coach. You've had other coaches. I mean, what is that advantage as a player of like having that coach that's like, oh, I actually know like how this feels on the map, or I know that this is the play to do, and I'm like, hey guys, like go do this, or like versus like a bad call out.
I definitely think for me, like the difference that a coach can make is like extreme, actually. So obviously, if you have one that all they do is call out times, like that doesn't really do anything for you. Having someone that plays, understands the game, and can, like Emanuel said, simplify it for you and like keep track of things. Like you can focus more on like the individual battles you need to win, like what you need to be doing, like how you need to clutch up, and then that's kind of like the afterthought of positioning and like that. Or I don't know where I'm going with this, but like, it's like an afterthought. Like you don't think of it in the moment, but then you have someone in your ear telling you, all right, this is what we need to be doing next. Well, then like automatically that makes it so easy just to like, it's almost muscle memory. Like you just move, like you don't even think about it because you don't have to.
Right. You're essentially just, you're shooting your gun and, going off of like your instincts and your own, capabilities and, that kind of thing. And, yeah,
you kind of find yourself pointing them in directions, or like kind of like
absolutely in certain situations.
What's an example? Do you have an example that you can pull off of like what would be?
So I guess to be specific, I mean there's this specific point in a game type like Coliseum Slayer in Halo 5. That 6-minute mark. I'm giving some like free game to people, but
pro tips.
Some pro tips. But there's a specific point in Coliseum Slayer where both power weapons come up at the same time, but one is more important than the other, and it's at the 6-minute mark, and so that's that moment where I'm like, all right, guys, we need sniper control above all, and let's make sure we don't deviate from that mentality in that moment. Obviously, I'm saying that simplified, in the moment, but that's the general verbiage.
So what if you got like Penguin that's like wandering off towards rockets or whatever? I mean, what do you say then? Like, is that kind of like a, hey, like,
Well, at that point, he's already there. I mean, if he's already there and the time is like less than 10 seconds, there's not exactly much he can do if he's already on the opposite end. It's kind of just like everybody else. Okay, we need the numbers there. We need the rest of our numbers over at this objective.
Yeah, and that takes that in-moment game knowledge of like not pulling someone away, right? Like that knowledge of like, oh, it's 10 seconds. And like, if I were to call him off, like I'm actually just kind of scrambling. It's a lot of split second decision making too.
Absolutely.
Right?
And I mean, there's such a thing as overcoaching. Like,
right. Yeah.
You don't want to overload a specific player on.
You don't want to micromanage
Exactly.
Right.
Like
an individual. I think
Yep.
it helps like the bigger picture, like all four. So like obviously if I wander off towards Rockets, somebody might still be having like the same thought as me. They might not be focused on that other thing. And then Emmanuel will say something and they'll be like, okay, why wasn't I thinking of this? Like, okay, I see he's over there doing that already. I don't need to go with him. Like I'll go do this other thing that
Right.
just got reminded to me.
exactly.
Yeah, and there's so much that you have to pay attention to because, I mean,
Yeah, and I mean,
maybe it's different online than on a tournament too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have a bit better vision. Well, for me, I feel like I have better vision on LAN, like a better feel. Like the vision kind of like correlates with the feel of coaching 4 players, at the same time actively in game, versus online.
Yeah.
Even though I might have vision on all their screens, I don't know. I don't really know how to articulate that one. It's just a better feel, I feel like, for me on LAN.
Well, my experience is maybe watching a LAN, from kind of the passionate gamer, watching streams and watching a main stage. You've got a coach kind of standing behind the players with a clipboard, and you're like, what do I like? I've always been like, what is that guy doing? Like taking notes or
just hanging out, dude.
Just hanging out.
Yeah,
He's like,
just
dude, I've got the
doodling,
best pass in the freaking venue.
Right. Yeah, it's funny because when it comes to telling players, a specific player, what to do, or just telling the whole team like explicitly what to do in a certain situation, not every coach is going to do that. Maybe they might think to do it, but to actually have that conviction and confidence to say it, they're two different things, two completely different things. And I feel like you don't get that overnight. Like you again, it ties into playing the game.
Right.
Yeah,
over.
I've had coaches who don't play say something, and like I've had teammates yell at them because they said
Yeah.
it's the worst, most wrong thing ever because they don't even play the game.
Yeah.
It's like, shut up, dude. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, he
tough.
doesn't, so.
It's tough. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking a lot about Halo 5 for the last little bit, and I think that this isn't really a talking point on our schedule, but I think that it's something that we should talk about is playing old Halos kind of in preparation for what's to come, right? We've got Halo Infinite around the corner, and we're in COVID, and building your friends list now, and why is it so important to be kind of like picking up the sticks now and rather than kind of putting it aside and doing something else? I mean, Zane, maybe you can start us off on...
Yeah, sure. I think you should be playing old Halos now, and not just even playing, but like getting involved with like maybe streams and like chatting with like other good players that do stream the game, just to get your name out there now, because people will notice like who's around now. Like, sure, we'll get these up and comers later on that we have no idea who they are right now, but as far as going into the game, like towards the game, like if you're playing right now, like people will take notice of that, and if you're like sweating super hard, like trying your hardest all the time, like putting in the passion now, like it's gonna be put in later when there's actually things going on. So I think it's really important to show the world that you want it, that you're gonna be there, that you're here now, you're gonna be there later, like you want it. Like if people see that you want it, it's not only gonna give them more of a reason to be positive and pursue it, it's gonna like, it's like the whole combining energies type of thing. Like if you're making friends with people that are here now and they want it and you want it, like you're gonna go super hard, like, and you're gonna meet better players now.
Yeah, you've kind of got like the ball rolling, you've got momentum going and carrying into what's to come, right? I mean, Emanuel, any kind of advice on playing new Halos or current Halos in preparation of the new Halos? Or
yeah, I mean, it all ties into what your ambitions are as your goals, and what you want as an individual. Obviously that ties into like the whole friends list thing too. It's like, do you want to associate yourself or side with the same people that have those similar goals as you or ambitions? maybe it's like, when Infinite comes out, you want to hit the ground running and already have a team day one. After that game is installed, you guys are like, bet, let's hit this, let's hit the playlist. If that's your goal, and that game doesn't come out until, I don't know, maybe it's going to be November, most likely in the fall.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, but now's
that's
the
goal,
time, right? Yeah.
Yeah, if that's your goal, you can start that right now by, getting involved in, if it's Halo 3 or Halo 5 or, whatever. It's like, as long as those players that, you're looking for are, have that same mentality or similar mentality, then you can create those connections right now and just, be consistent, and
Yeah.
and
I think that
makes a
translates
difference.
even more than just the competitive sense. Like, if you just love playing Halo, like as a casual, even like getting involved now is probably the better idea. Like, obviously, people that play casually now are going to be playing Halo Infinite. Like, they just love the game, and maybe you just love the game too. And that's a great way to build friendships, is like
Right.
getting into those streams or even Discord servers. We didn't really talk about that, but
Right.
Discord servers are a great community, and that's a way to meet people and just like
Yeah.
ask people to play, because there are people that just love to play Halo. And like, maybe that's you. Maybe you don't want to be competitive. Maybe you just love to play Halo, and like, you just want to meet people that want the same thing as you, and you play casually with them, and you build that friendship and like get to know them, and then you end up moving forward into Halo Infinite with some buddies,
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you're talking about building your community, and or being involved in, like, the gaming community that you're passionate about or interested
Right.
in, it's I mean, Twitter's very huge as far as like gaming community, um in that sense. Obviously, we like Discord is like, I'd say like that's probably like
the biggest thing.
the
Yeah.
biggest thing. Everything kind of like builds off of that. It's like, oh, do you have a Twitter? What's your Twitter?
Twitch, Discord.
Twitch, Twitter, Discord are like the three big ones.
And they all kind of loop into each other too, right?
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
they're all kind of
100%.
yeah.
And I mean,
that's cool.
Twitch is obviously that's just as game changing as any of them, in the sense of, you just discover people
Right.
randomly.
Yeah.
And then
Just
you
scroll down, hit someone with 5 viewers, and just talk to them, because they would love to
Yeah.
talk to you. Again,
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. That's great advice, Zane. So, I mean, just to conclude our podcast on Friends List, and maybe we can just end on like, what are you guys looking forward to in the future? What's something? I mean, obviously there's the obvious, like Halo Infinite. We've got that around the corner. The community's small right now, so now's a great time to kind of get in. If you like that's kind of what I've been hearing for a while from you two is, now's the time. I mean, but what's like your one thing that you're just like, dude, I can't wait?
Oof. Honestly, I just can't wait for the grind, man. Just putting my head down along with like our team,
definitely,
and
dude.
just
I'm looking forward to that too.
and just grinding this game like I've never grinded anything ever in my life. And and outside
He's
of
just
like,
the coach.
I know, right?
That's cool.
And
Yeah.
it's just like, not even just so like the grind is obviously number one. There's period, but I would also add that I'm also looking forward to being able to give insight to people who are, interested in the scene, or that want to get involved, kids, players, whoever. Like, I look forward to being that kind of person, to anyone, as far as like giving back and, educating,
Yeah.
in game, whether it's in game or outside of the game. Like, that is something that I'm very interested in, looking forward to a lot. So, and outside of grinding, I would say that for sure.
Yeah.
I know for me, outside of grinding, once Halo Infinite drops, like for the time being, like definitely just looking to meet the people that are still around now, maybe growing my own community on Twitch or Twitter or whatever it is, and like getting involved with people that like the game, because at the end of the day, like I love competing, but I still just love playing Halo, and I think that's like a common shared interest that a lot of people have. And I think just for me, just like building a Discord, building a Twitch community that just loves playing Halo like I do.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I'm just excited for like more content, man. I'm excited to just be
Same,
engaged,
same.
entertained. You know, I mean, there's so much opportunity, kind of from like a content creator, to just dive into. I mean, it's just,
for sure, man.
it's such a blank canvas right now, and there's so many stories to be told, and experiences to be had. And I know that maybe I can kind of speak for everyone that I'm just excited for COVID to be over and to be at a LAN and be with the homies and kind of roll together as a community and kind of just be back in that scene,
back
immersive.
in the mix.
Yeah, back in the mix.
Back in the stew is what some people call it. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Stew?
God, I can't. The stew.
Yeah, I just want to
man.
marinate
There's a
with
lot.
everyone.
There's a lot that goes into the stew.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
There's carrots, potatoes, chicken broth. I mean, it's a long, good recipe, by the way, of chicken stew.
Absolutely, it's healthy. It's hearty.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, man. I'm getting excited just thinking about it. But we gotta be patient.
Yeah. Well, I just want to extend a nice warm thank you to our viewers and listeners. Thanks for taking the time to join us on our first podcast, Playing to Win Friends List. I also want to extend a really heartfelt thank you to Zane and Emanuel for joining us on this podcast. Thank you guys so much, man. Again, just thank you so much for joining us on our podcast, Playing to Win. I'm Travis Paylor, and we'll see you on the next podcast.